in India, smart city mission sometimes mean very basic things like access to clean water and sanitation, to public places and mobility infrastructure. How do you think big technology, new technology, and AI or digital twins, how do you think all these technologies fits into this narrative? Because we are still at a very rudimentary stage of smartening ourselves, our cities. So sometimes what I gathered during the research, which was compiled in my book, the third book, Smart City in India, Urban Paradigm, Laboratory or Trajectory, with a question mark, because many a times there is not a definition. There is not a definitive definition, and government of India has also been very smart because it has left every city to kind of find its own path and chart its own destiny of smartness depending on its strength and weaknesses and opportunities. It was very smart move by the government. And but as a mission leader, how do you think the challenges that you faced in the field, because this is what we mean by smartness globally, the deployment of intelligent digital technologies. But when you go out on the street, then you see that there are basic issues that need to be addressed first in order to reach that degree or reach that level of smartness. So how do you kind of reconcile this?
Okay, fair. Sandeep bhai, any question? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so my question was fairly related to what Binti asked, because I had formulated that probably much before in my head. So my question is kind of naive in some ways as well, because the idea of smart cities, that's evolved over time, from where it began, from a capitalist, kind of an environment, to when government of India actually, kind of adopted it as a way of, improving the conditions of cities in India. So there has been a transformation, but you are in the apex of this transformation. So I would just like to know from your side, how do you, as officials who work behind the scene, kind of understand this? Because knowing very well that smartness could mean different things to different societies, right? Like different communities in the society, it could mean different things for, let's say, different different classes in the society. Yeah, sorry, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take 3-4 minutes before I start my presentation. One thing which I'm very tempted to answer is Sandeep first, is that this word smart city, when did it arrive in the global arena? How did India pick it up? And what have we done with that word? Now, different terminologies have emerged in global area. Sometimes, for example, around in 2000s, we had a word called as digital city. Then around 2005, that word got obsolete, and intelligent city was another word which came in the arena. 2010, normally these terminologies stay for 5 years. People get bored and then they come up with a new word. And smart city terminology came around 2010. And that is when it was there before, intelligent city, digital city, all meaning the same. The basic word was, how do you use more and more technology towards kind of better urban management? How do you use more and more tech? And when you say urban management, it means everything. It means right from when you study the history of what smart cities have done across the world, you'll find that cities like Barcelona, for example, they started with health for senior citizens. Now, I have a old mother. She might get ill when I'm there in office, and she needs medical support. And even if she gives me a ring, for me to drive back from my office to the home and pick her and take her to the hospital, I might lose that important hour. Now, how do I do it? For example, they created a band by which she could press the button. One message goes to the son, and other is also mapped to the nearby hospital. And so by the time you reach your mother, she has been responded by the local hospital and taken to emergency services. Now, simple things of using of technology, what was basically promoted. Now in India, in 2014, we had an election, and in the manifesto, a political party mentioned that they would be developing 100 new cities. So 2014, the new government comes in and they start developing the scheme, and smart city word was around the corner. And that is why they created Smart Cities Mission. And that is where 100 cities were worked out. It was launched on 25th June 2015. You'll be one thing which is very interesting, that on the same day, there were two more missions which were launched. One was about affordable housing. We say PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. It was for affordable housing for all. And the idea was to make 10 million houses for people who do not have a Pakka house. So same day, another scheme which was launched the same day was Amrit, which was about providing good, safe drinking water to every house. So that was a dedicated mission. And the third mission, which was launched the same day, was the Smart Cities mission. Now, interestingly, in 2015, the strategy of the government of India was that the country is growing. We have a huge population. A lot of people are becoming more and more urban. They are becoming more urban than rural ever since 2000. And people coming in the urban areas are much, much more. Now, because of this transition, they finalized that there are three things which are paramount, and they should be in all the cities of the country. Housing, one, there was a dedicated mission for it. Cleanliness, we had Swachh Bharat mission in all the places. And then we wanted livelihood. So if you give a good house, if you can give livelihood, and if you can clean the place, this was the most fundamental three things. And there were dedicated missions for all these. And they were to be working in all the 4,000 plus towns and cities of the country. Now, the next step was to provide water supply and drainage system. And for that, you needed some scale. So they chose 1 lakh population, and there were around 500 cities in the country, and they should have water supply, drainage, sewerage system. For there, it was a dedicated mission called as Amrit. Now, once you have the affordable housing done, drainage, sewerage, water supply done, livelihood worked out, and cleanliness worked out, what is left? Now, Smart City Mission was the next 100 cities experiment. And that is why you will find my presentation stating that it is the most powerful urban experiment done in the country. Why I say so is because it is a mission which is forward looking. When you talk about a affordable housing mission or a water supply mission, it is about some deficit which should have been done before, which is being done now. So these are problems or issues of the past. Now, these are what backlogs. Smart City Mission was an experiment because it wanted the cities to take cognizance of the challenges of tomorrow and prepare accordingly. That is where this is the fundamental. Now, what I will do in my presentation today is, since I've worked in the mission for 25 years, it has been for last 8 years, it has been a journey, how we started and how things evolved. We did not know when you move ahead and you move, you do not know the path. And plus Indian cities, unlike the Western cities, they're not urbanized at the same level. Now, Indian urbanization, you have these 100 cities which have been selected. And you'll be surprised to notice that 50% of these cities have population less than 5 lakhs. Very, very small. The smallest of them has a population of 25,000. Kavarati, Port Blair, Bhagalpur. These are the majority. Small towns, very, very small towns. And you also have the big towns, but they are few. For example, cities with more than 4 million population, they are only 5, 6. So the majority are smaller towns. And each town, because of their size, because of their geography, because of their economy, they all have different priorities. So if anybody understands India, the governance system in India, we have 3 layers. We have central government. Then we have the federal structure where we have around 38 states and union territories. And then we have these cities. Now, most of the missions, they start from the national level and they end at the state level because urban development is a state subject. Smart City Mission, one experiment done was that we will not stop at the state level. We'll go to the city level and we'll transfer the money to the cities and ask them to solve their problems without giving them any template. Vintage, when you say that Indian government was smart, actually we were not smart. We were honest. We were honest to acknowledge that sitting in Delhi, you may not be able to, or why should we say may not? You will not be able to understand the issues of Aurangabad. You'll not be able to understand the issues of, say, Bhagalpur or say of Durgapur. So they have different priorities. Every city has different issues. So the local issues are best known to the local urban local bodies. And they are the one who should identify their projects. They are the one who should create a vision for this. Okay, what you can do is create a template so that everybody is there in line. One direction was given that as much as possible, try to incorporate technology because you'll always have lesser resources and you will have more people to serve. The road is limited. How do you make it more optimal? Energy, how do you make it more optimal? Housing, safety and security, the people who manage it. So use more and more technology. Water, you will have limited water to serve to the people. How do you reduce the waste of water? How do you ensure that more people get water? So solid waste, multiple things. How do you use technology in every aspect? Let us say, I'll give you a very interesting example. In government, in India, the primary education is largely by both government schools and private schools. Now, we understand from a distance that most students will be studying in private schools. But actually, the number of students studying in government schools are much more. Okay. Now, government schools, they have not got that much of financial leverage to expand their education style. Now, to give you a small example, one city has got 40 government schools. And I am a teacher of mathematics, and I'm the best teacher. Now, I'm the best teacher. I cannot be there in all the 40 schools. Now, what Smart City Mission freedom gave to these cities was, okay, Vikash is the best mathematics teacher. Can we make him live in all the schools, all the 40 schools when he teaches? Can we record his lectures and put it in one folder so that a student can do it anywhere? Now, this may look like a very, very small thing for private schools or good academic institutions, but trust me, it is a magic for many government school students and those people who are unprivileged. So that is where use of technology can be done in multiple ways. So what in my presentation, what I'll do is I'll basically be giving 25 learnings which we had in this smart city mission. Please allow me to make this small presentation. Whenever you feel bored, trust me, you can say, let's have a discussion. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Thank you for giving the option of saying, okay, enough of this. Okay, just to confirm, my screen is visible. Am I audible?
You are, absolutely. And we
Yes.
can see your screen as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think I need to, let me just try it once again. Okay. So I'm Vikash, and let's talk about smart cities and sustainability and why I say this is the most powerful urban experiment in modern India. We all know this cliche. This is a century of cities. If the 19th, 20th century was about empires and nations were being created, all of a sudden in 100 years, 120 more nations happened last in between 1900 to 2000. Now this is a time when cities will get the voice. And I think that is where we are echoing the same thing when we focus on these cities. And that is where I think it was courageous to dedicate a national mission named as Smart Cities Mission. Now, cities change and they change continuously. I'm just giving an example of New York. How, if you have to remain relevant, you have to remain powerful, you have to reinvent yourself over time. You may have to move from manufacturing to high technology, of to becoming a finance, shipping, and real estate hub. So you'll have to change, and that change is always there. Now, we know Bangalore too, which was an education hub, which was a place where a lot of senior citizens would go and retire. Now, it became a place for aerospace and research and defense institution. But then Y2K happened, and IT boom happened, and Infosys and Wipro and TCS, and it became the Silicon City. Today, it is much more diverse. So what the city was, and when people say that the city has changed, cities do change, and they change continuously. Now, not every city changes, and surely not the way they should. For giving an example, say Kanpur, which was a very, very important 1850, a very important place in British colonial power. It had the railways there, and it has all the kind of looms, but it did not change. And in 1970s, the textile industry was nationalized, and no further economic dimensions were added. And today it is synonymous for not of for very good things. So it is stuck in time. Now, if you change will happen, and if you don't, some cities will thrive, some will survive, but some will shrink and vanish too. Now, in this perspective, it was very, very important that the Indian government decided to give the focus on the cities and all kinds of cities. They could have chosen 5 cities. Why did they choose 100? I've been to many global platforms, and the amount of investment being done in urban development or urban infrastructure scenario, trust me, the scale of India is magnanimous. Now let's unbox the Smart City Mission of India. The whole idea from very inception was not to be very straight fit. The idea was to give a loose touch, and therefore you give options. You gave options of different models of development. They could choose from retrofit model. They could go for a redevelopment of existing area into different thing, or they could go for a greenfield area. They had to largely focus because the money given to them was limited. Instead of spreading them across the city, they had to choose a particular area. And when I say choose, it was to be chosen by the citizen, what area they want to kind of get developed, what kind of projects they want to get developed, what is their priority, and accordingly, the city was to make their own plan. Now, there are two things very important here, and that is why I retained this in a slide. The first thing is India has around 460 million urban population out of the total population, which is around 31%. These 100 smart cities, they represent 25% of the total Indian urban population. Okay, so that is why it is a kind of a significant number, though the number of cities in India are around 5,000 today. But these 100 cities out of the 5,000 have around 25% of the India's urban population. The interesting part is middle. What you see, the small red one, are those big cities which have been taken in the Atal mission. The majority is the blue. These are smaller cities who have population less than 1 million. And it is 6%, but actually the 45% of this are even smaller cities which have population less than 0.5 million. And these are the cities which are growing. And that is where, when you give them the freedom, the changes are most evident. They are kind of, I'll say, poor cities. Poor when I say amount of fund available to them for development, their capacity is smaller. The bigger cities have larger fund resources, they have larger capacity, which has grown over time. But that is the reality. So the middle portion, you see the blue, which is the very, very important part. What you also see is in a place like India, where urban development is at different levels, it will be and plus when you have such a mix of cities, it will be very, very important. And we were not smart. We were actually honest to kind of acknowledge it, to give flexibility so that you can choose whatever model you do. And that when the flexibility was given, the development model chosen was that only 5 cities chose a greenfield development approach. Most of them wanted to fix their existing cities. How can we make the life of people better in the existing areas? So that is the kind of different models happen. Now, interestingly, this slide is very, very interesting. Please see the legend on the corner above, and it is about type of projects. Now, if you go into any particular band, you can further have a list of projects. But just to give you what kind of projects or what kind of urban priorities were chosen, that is the legend on the top. And see the band of 25 cities. Every city had different priorities. Somewhere economic infrastructure was important, somewhere energy was important. Look at the 23rd. Smart energy was more important, and the investment, they all got the same money. Their urban priorities were different. Somewhere smart mobility was important. You look at the light blue. Now it varies. If you look at the vibrant spaces, which is the orange or the amber, or the deep blue, which is about water and sanitation. So the priorities of the cities are different. And Delhi, what they did really good was they acknowledged this and they trusted the cities. In fact, many places I say that another name for smart city mission is trust the city's mission. So that is when we have diverse cities and they have got diverse needs. Now, where we have reached. Now, interestingly, on 31st March 2025, the Smart City mission officially concluded. When I say officially concluded was that when the mission was launched, if you look at that 99% on the amber, 48,000 crores was the total central government support for this project, and an equal matching share was given by the states. So 48 plus 48, 96, better you can say 1 lakh crores was total government support. Now, out of the total government support which was allocated, we released 99.44% of money. So 47,762 was released to these cities. And these funds have been utilized 96% by the cities. 93% of the project, more than 7,500 projects have been completed. Only 500 projects remain, which should get completed in 3 months, 6 months. And these are projects maybe in smaller towns, maybe more difficult projects. Somewhere there are legal issues, somewhere there are encroachments. So some of the reasons, but largely most of the projects have ended. Now, 8 years, 7,500 projects completed. What are some learnings from this India's urban development? So let's go by 25 ideas. I'll take maybe a minute each for 25. So the first learning we have is that to rise up, we have to be connected to the ground. So the whole idea of trusting the cities, asking them what the priorities was. What you see on the right is basically a report which was made for Government of India on how much investment do we need. And you notice that only 8 sectors were understood to be urban. Now, in my opinion, this was a smaller list. What you see on the left are these bars, blue bars, are the projects which have been identified by the 100 smart cities. Safety and security, non-motorized transport, health, education, pollution, economic development, IT, digitization, they are urban issues too. And that is why a larger palette of urban issues were identified. And that is where I think that has been a great learning, that we have to be vocal for the local and we have to trust them to kind of undertake these projects. The second learning we have is that institutional experimentation, which we did, that all these urban local bodies have a municipal structure and they have some strengths which has developed over time, but they, because of their age, they are not very agile. And one experiment which was done was that we create a special purpose vehicle or a company in each of these 100 cities who was made responsible to deliver the project. Now, multiple departments or any project has got multiple dimensions. It has angles of environment, it has angle of social, it has angle of economy. So if all these different aspects, they need a much larger team to take collective decision. And that is where these companies which were created, they paid dividend. That is a learning for us. Why we say so is, I told you in the beginning that 66 cities are smaller cities. But these 66 cities are undertaking the total project, which we have been undertaking the mission. They are taking almost the same level of projects as the bigger cities. And they have been also able to complete the same level of projects as have been done by the bigger cities. Imagine, to give an example, I don't know how many of you are familiar with India, but let us say a big city, which is say Surat, which has a population of 8 million. And if it completes, say, projects worth 10 million, and the same amount of project is also completed by a city which has a population of 0.5 million, and obviously, which means much lesser capacity, much lesser kind of experience to kind of deliver technical project, all kinds of project. So if the smaller cities are performing as good as the bigger cities, then I think this SPV structure or the experimentation we did, that was paying dividends. Everybody wants to develop a new city, but it is not easy. It is difficult. Now, what smart cities have been able to do is that we have been able to create templates for greenfield development. And there are 5 cities who undertook greenfield development. And I can give you beautiful examples. Let me start with one, which is Ranchi. Now, Ranchi is a city in a state called as Jharkhand. They acquired about 600 acres of land. They put in 1,000 crores from Government of India. They had bought that land for around 700 crores. Altogether, they invested around 2,000 crores in developing that area. And the whole idea was to create about a knowledge center with 30, 40 colleges and leave the economic benefit which will happen once these colleges come in. But just going by the pure mathematics of economy, we find that they have been able to return back the government the money which they paid for the land. They have been able to recover almost the investment made in the land, and they have sold only maybe 20% of their developed properties. So real estate, how it kind of bring financial sustenance, I think that is a great template which has been developed in Indian smart cities. What we also noticed here is one idea which was experimented was area-based development. That if a city has got, say, 40 smaller wards, and the smart city development was largely focused on, say, 5% of the total area of the city. And just because you put in that money, we did a study that how is the real estate impacted when you put in this kind of investment in that selected area. We found that this study was done across 20 cities, and we found that the real estate prices of these ABD areas where investment was made, their real estate prices for residential and commercial rose the highest then in comparison to the other part of the city. Now, you can see it is very obvious, but where I'm actually taking is that now that when we know that the real estate prices of this selected area has increased this much over a period of time, they are the people who can pay me larger property taxes. For example, based on the different zip codes, you can raise higher property taxes. If you're staying in a locality which has a better school or which has a better health facility, you would not mind paying more property taxes. Now, this has been a largely European and American kind of experience. We have not tried it. But I think with this area-based development approach impacting the real estate prices like that, because it means the people are feeling that this area is better. And that is why they're paying more money to kind of buy a house here. So these areas could actually become a model. This model can become a model for differential property taxes over a period of time. So it makes economic sense. The fifth part, which I basically found we discovered was during COVID, because Indian cities are huge. We have a huge population. And how do you test when these cities were tested during a pandemic like COVID? How did you deal with it? And each city, be it communication to the citizens, be it mapping the positive cases, mapping your medical infrastructure, kind of monitoring them, the health infrastructure, what is available, how do you create a dashboard, how do you inform the people, what is the preparedness of the city, what is available where, how do you kind of do predictive modeling because there is uncertainty every day. How can you be prepared? So all these 4 dimensions were handled by the cities much, much better because of their rendezvous with technology for over a period of time. And there are exceptional stories in these 100 cities. And I think there is enough for the world to learn how these cities kind of they were working out different situations. Our experiences are very, very handy to much larger world. And I can give countless examples of this. But the whole idea that when you impart the ability to the cities to be agile is fundamental of being smart, is our learning. Now, India is a old civilization. We take great pride in our history and culture. And that is where we feel that many of the cities, when they chose to kind of invest into their history and culture and how that was impacting them, is some of the great stories or experiences we got. The picture which you see is of a place called as Ujjain. Those from India would know that it is a very, very popular religious destination. What you see in maybe a small red temple, maybe zoomed down there, and that is a Mahakal temple, which is a very, very popular religious place. And what you see, this entire structure, it was all encroachments. There were slums, there were dirt, and what you see, that water body was basically amalgamation of dirt water sewerage collection center. They invested 1,000 crores in this. And because of this investment, the number of people who used to visit this city has gone up 7 times. 7 times. And to give you a small example, a shop near this temple, you could buy a new shop or rent a new shop at say 2x. Now, the same thing is not available to you even if you are paying 100x. So that is the scale of economy which takes a plunge, or well, the way it scales when you put such kind of investment. And especially when you take care of heritage, it's basically the pedestal for many of the cities, because many of these cities have such kind of glorious history. They have a very, very rich history and culture. And if you make investments into this, it actually kind of works. The seventh thing which we learned was that keeping the citizen at the core is non-negotiable. Nothing is more important. This was the first time we asked the cities to go to their people and ask what do they want, which is the area they want to develop. And continuously, we kept them agile and we kept on sending the city back to its city, back to its people. Now, this exercise was never done before. Now, we also got, it backfired with us because when you went to the people and talked to them, they had huge expectations from you. And say you have got 4 children and one child claims to be the smart one. Now, irrespective, there is a burden of smartness. Now, just because you went to the citizens and talked to them, they were they were expecting from you. And that is time when some of the expectations are at times difficult to achieve. At times, even of things which you are not responsible, but nevertheless. But it is very, very important. It's non-negotiable. This is the first learning which we did in India, and we realized that it's very, very important. And that is when we were able to solve problems which were pending for decades. You know, eighth learning, which I say is that we have to think in a more holistic approach. You're not able to create this pedestrian pathway just because of an engineering project. You are able to do because you have to create a policy. You have to create, how do you create a healthy street? How do you have a policy for non-motorized transport? How do you have a policy for parking? And then you have to add in infrastructure and logistics because it would need cycle tracks, it would need utilities there. But then you'll have to also create processes and you'll have to create well, people to embrace those kind of workouts. You make a great road and people don't use it. So every project would have a much more systematic manner if you want to have a sustainable impact. Now that is, trust me, is great wisdom. And I can tell you in all the 100 cities, in each of the 100 cities, they have been able to demonstrate, if not many, surely some projects which have done the basics correct, and they have been able to make it successful. We also realized that we have to invest in youth, and we created a program where we wanted young engineers, socialists, psychologists working in different colleges to come and work with the different urban local bodies. We created a program which was the Urban Learning Internship Program. What we have here is actually the 6,000 internship. Actually, it is 16,000 internships done by students in different urban local bodies. And these young people, they bring in a lot of energy, which is, which adds to the urban local bodies delivery kind of. And it is important that we nurture these urban champions, and the cities should invest in it. And the idea, the best part is these young students who came in and started working with urban local bodies, they were working with the urban local bodies. We did not hire them for them. We only created a mechanism and they hired these young people who worked with them for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And we really benefited from this. One thing, when you wear spectacles and your spectacles go missing, that is the time you realize how important they are. And that is what happened to us during COVID. We realized that, active living is more important. And that is why people wanted to cycle. And that is when, how do you make walking a more important? All of a sudden, cycling was not merely a leisure, but it also became the most safest way to commute. You wanted to avoid public transport. Now, that is where we took this opportunity to create a lot of cycling tracks. And we have created around, in the mission, more than 6,000 kilometers of cycle tracks across the cities. Now, these are great infrastructure. Surely, the number of people who are still using it has reduced after COVID, but nevertheless, it has been a great beginning. And many cities you will see public cycling available. Roads are there, there is infrastructure there. Over a period, since these infrastructure is there, probably that will kind of improve over time. Small examples. I'm showing one example here. This is a small patch of vacant land between two slums, and how this place has been transformed. There are thousands and thousands of such examples in each and every city which has been done under the Smart City Mission. The amount of money spent in these projects is minimal. These are tactical urbanism, and the impact it has on the people who live nearby is immense. All of a sudden, they feel so kind of engaged with urban development. Such kind of project requires a vision and courage, and it is necessary in building smart cities. We need to make cities for all abilities, ages, and gender. Multiple projects done in different cities where these places have been kind of rejuvenated, redeveloped. Coimbatore, the photo which you see on the right, is a city which had 7 lakes, the basic fundamental of that city. And those lakes were neglected. Were they waiting for Smart City Mission to happen and develop those entire lakefront, and how it is becoming a public space and how it improves the lives of your society? We have to also, the 13th learning which we had was about that need to invest into health and education in country's future. And we have to use more and more technology. I give you an example of me being the best mathematics teacher and how government schools, what you see the photo here in the left is of a city called as Tumkuru. It is a small city in the north of Bangalore, and it's a government school, and it is a digital library. And such digital libraries have been developed in so many places, in more than 50 cities. And all of a sudden, the students are finding it exciting. So such kind of development, investment in education or social infrastructure is fundamental. What we are also very pleasantly surprised is that we can get a lot of private investments in different types of urban infrastructure. It was a great learning, from market redevelopment to developing multimodal transport hubs to solar rooftop to waste to energy plants. More than 50 cities were able to get more than 10,000 crores of private investments. It could have been much more, but this number almost virtually stopped after COVID, which was a kind of a pandemic where it changed the cycle. But the good point is they learned how to interact with private people and how to get their investment done. And it is not only one type of infrastructure. This image also shows the different type of infrastructure which is needed. What we also realized was that government cannot be functioning alone. It has to be, the new age governance is not only about government, it requires 360-degree engagement. I'll take your attention to that small image on the right, which is a Hindi word called as SAR. SAR means summary, and it has a butterfly. And that butterfly has a reason, because the logo of Smart City Mission was a butterfly, and that was a static butterfly in 2 dimensions. And this SAR is about smart cities and academia towards action and research. And it happened because of one small incident. And I'm narrating this incident because that is how we learned it. So I was there into a college giving a jury, and we saw that the students were not aware about what we were doing. They were still giving references of Europe and American cities. So we created this platform and we invited the colleges and their students to create case studies for themselves. More than 90 case studies were written by the students. They were documented, published, sent to all the colleges in the country. We took it to the next level. We invited all the IITs and IIMs to do kind of impact assessment studies of the work done. They were published. Now they are available. So now these are Indian references which are being created. Similarly, you are working with the private. Similarly, you are working with convergence with different government schemes. So the whole idea is we have to be more participative. Peer-to-peer learning is the best way to build capacity, is, I think, in my opinion, the biggest learning. Why? Because I do not want the country of the today's India doesn't want learning to only come from outside. The best way is when Baroda teaches Patna how to raise a municipal bond. The best way is when Srinagar learns from Ranchi on how greenfield development should be done, how what are the challenges done for environment. So the best way is when each other kind of learning. So we created different capacities, different platforms where such kind of things were worked out. One thing was about National Urban Learning Platform, NULP we say, and each city created their learnings and put in there, and it became a reference for peer-to-peer workout. Many kind of development. I can speak for 2 hours only on this aspect of how we worked it out. Now you might be wondering that, smart cities, we assume about technology, and we have come to the 17th point, and he has not been talking about technology at all. Now, technology was used, is being used in all the 100 cities, but we do not say that it is the best solution only. All I have seen across the world how digital twins are being created. I understand that that is a place where our Indian cities will reach, but I think we are fixing our fundamentals first. When mindfully deployed, technology can transform governance is our first part. We want to manage our traffic. We want to manage our water supply. We want to manage our solid waste. We want to manage how our public transport works with technology first. I understand when we graduate to the next level and when we create digital twins and the capacity of our government officers is enabled to handle digital twin, we'll be able to reach there. But the process has begun. All the cities are at different levels of maturity, and multiple things, more than 40, 50 different aspects of urban governance have been covered. Thousands of use cases created, documented, shared with each other, and every day, every city is kind of maturing to the next level. What is also important is that we have to become a data-driven governance, and that we thought that we should do with assessment frameworks. And that is where we started in 2018. And over a period, we developed 5 different assessment frameworks. And each one, for example, the first one was Ease of Living Index. And it was for 111 cities, around 100 data points, all data collected, put it in a public domain, Municipal Performance Index, Data Maturity Assessment Framework. How do you make cities climate smart? How do you create a Swachhta Sarvekshan on cleanliness, hygiene, and sanitation in towns? Now look at, say, the last one, Swachhta Sarvekshan. Now, it has been happening since 2016 in more than 4,000 cities and 245 data points. And all these data points is available in one platform, which is called as Amplify. And that is which is available for any urban researcher to take this data for different level. Now, while researchers may be using it, the government is using it too. And that is why we want to progress towards data-driven governance by creating such assessment frameworks by which we collected data, and not the data is available back and coming back in the loop. Technology, no. I'll come to the 19th point is that cities can be enablers and it also can be consumer of innovation. Now, what we did was we created the 6 City Innovation Exchange. And the idea was that the city poses a question, raises a problem statement at this platform, and the startups, which are there on the right, provide a solution. Now, the whole idea that India is a young country and we are good in technology. So our young people, if you give them a kind of problem, and if you accept the problem and you are able to give them a work order to deliver their kind of technology to you, that is where the great problems can be solved. So we created a policy about smart procure and how a platform where the cities can raise a problem and the young startup industry can provide a solution to it. So that was the 19th learning. Being smart is being prepared. More than 30 cities are coastal cities. The way they are using technology during disaster, cyclones, fire, urban flooding, the way they are using it, every day the cities are becoming smarter. They are more prepared. They have more SOPs ready. I can give examples of 50 cities and on how different things they are trying. Climate action is very important. We have done a climate assessment, which is impacting 140 million people, which is 1/3 of India's urban population. The results are available in our public domain. You can go to our website, smartcities.gov.in, go to Climate Smart Cities. All these publication, all this data is in public domain. This is something which we are actually proud of. And very few people praise us for the experiments done because we are a very, very critical community. And when we learned that the 8,000 plus projects done in the smart cities, they align to 16 SDGs, we felt happy. And we felt that we decided to map every project and their outcome towards individual SDGs. And we realized that while we are aligned to 16, but we are making significant projects or contributions to at least 9 of them. And that is where I think it is something for the urban practitioners to understand that we are not only SDG 11, but it is about much more. Is quality education not urban workout? Is gender equality not an urban issue? Clean water, sanitation. So if you look at the SDGs and the indicators and the targets, I think while the actions are local, the achievements at the global level are also significant. Coming into the last part, that while you do projects, but the ultimate focus has to be outcomes. And if you want to uh, monitor your outcomes, you have to kind of measure them. And when you want to measure them, you'll have to create frameworks for measurements. And that is where all these assessment frameworks were done. And the results which I was showing it, be it from GDP measuring at city level, or climate smart, or ease of living index. So these were different kind of works out to measure what the outcomes of these developments are. 4 key principles of smart cities can guide India's future urban development. We want more from less. We want the excellence to be affordable. We want the projects not only for today, but also for future. And it must be inclusive. It must be for all type of abilities. It must be about all kind of communities, all kind of age, all kind of gender. So these are the 4 kind of principles which Smart City Mission actually kind of curtails. The last one is that smart city is a journey. It is not a destination. You are not a good person because you did one good activity, but you will remain a good person if you do or add goodness every day in your life. And that is where you'll have to keep on adding smartness. You'll have to become much smarter than yesterday. And that process will be kind of work out. And that is when the smart city mission will have to become a movement. And a smart city is a city which works for people. This image is a great image of Baroda. And when you see an old man who's carrying a bunch of bananas and walking fearlessly across the road, and everyone is behind the line, and they understand that there is a camera which is watching them. Should you cross the line, there will be a small message putting a fine on you. And that is when the city is working. You're a smart city.